The mountainous nature of it. You have the middle parts of Europe as well. It's a well-known phenomenon. Refugee areas. Anyway, let's get back to my thing. So the that's just another map I use for it's to explain to people where Ballynocken is and just to set the scene. Now you won't be able to see this map very clearly. But one of the big problems I had when I set out studying the history of Ballynocken at that time, 30 years ago, was when did Chnocaín begin here? You know, when did the use of stone or the development of an industry based on stone begin? And at the time, the great informant of mine was Rosie Riley, who lived in central Ballynocken, as it were. Rosie was terrific. You know, the folklorists speak of carriers of a tradition. That there are often people, particularly in sort of pre-television age and all of that, there were people who were great storers of lore and history in their memories. You know, that was their knack, that's what they did. Chnocaín, for instance, the Irish word comes to mind, people like that. Rosie was definitely one of those. She had a wealth of information. Of course, her own family were involved in stone cutting. And Rosie gave me a huge amount of information. And sort of the book was based on, if you like, three sources. Number one, the written records, and I consulted some of those. Secondly, the landscape itself. You know, the landscape can tell us a lot if we have eyes to read it. Buildings, even the natural environment, rivers and lakes and hills and so on. So that's the second source. The third source are people, and they're the most precious of all. You know, people will have information that you won't get anyplace else. You know, and Rosie is a great source for me. And in actual fact, many of the people that I got information from, if not most of them, if not all of them, have passed away since. You know, so, and in fact, I used to tell you, Seamas, oh, you're doing this research, you're asking me about Ballynocken. You should have come 20 years ago, you know. And I'm sure if I was there 20 years ago, they would have said, oh, Seamas, you should have come 30 years ago. So, you know, you have to pick a particular time. But I do believe that a lot of the lore, as it were, was passing at the time. Anyway, Rosie, when I asked Rosie, she said, well, the way I put the question was, what was the first big job that was done by the Corries in Ballynocken? And she said it was for the Church of St. Francis Xavier in Gardner Street in Dublin. I have a picture of it somewhere. And she was sure about that, absolutely sure about it. And she said, and I think across it somewhere else as well, that, for instance, the first cart or dray, if you would call it that, for carrying the stone to Dublin was paid for by the priests of St. Francis Xavier Church in Gardner Street. Now, you couldn't make that up, you know what I mean? That had a sound of truth to it. So I was wondering, now, is this just folklore, or, you know, or what? So when I began to consult the written sources, I found the Ordnance Survey records. And when we're talking about the Ordnance Survey, we're not talking about maps, the first 6-inch map, which was produced early to mid-19th century in Ireland. We're talking about a huge amount of material collected by the Ordnance Survey team. Many of them were Irish scholars employed by the British government to help in collecting material so that they get place names right on the map. And they went around the country, visiting places, asking questions about the local industry in the area and so on. And they came to Ballynocken in 1838. Okay? And their records exist, and I read them. And they said the Chnocaín began 14 years ago, which was 1824. Now, when I then looked at the sources relating to the building of the Church of St. Francis Xavier, it was 1824. So Rosie was dead right. You know? The written sources had corroborated what she had said. So I was pretty sure that that was the case. Okay? So, where did the industry come from? Where did the skill come from? And so on? Where did the